You know what's weird to me? It's November 10th. Nebraska is square in the hunt to get to the Big Ten championship game. Nebraska has a chance to go bowling for the first time since, I think, 2016. Everything is in front of them. The teams left on their schedule are just as bad or worse than they are. Last year, end of last year, call it December, I made a ton of videos speculating what the future would be like. We talked about the new Matt Rule era, the new players, how the culture would shift, and all the comments, everything I read online, whether it was on my channel or on other channels, the consensus was the same. If they can finally start to win the games they're supposed to, and they can just get back to a bowl game, I'll be excited. I'll pay attention. I will be bought in. Today, Nebraska is 5-4. With everything in front of them. The Big Ten championship hopes are alive. And I don't see the enthusiasm that I have and that some of my friends have. I see people who have kind of sold on the season and said, you know, it was good and it was fun while it lasted, but the quarterback situation sucks. The defense kind of fell apart. The injuries are too much to overcome. Wisconsin and Iowa, those are teams we can't beat, which is freaking ridiculous to say at this point in the year. And I don't understand why and what changed from December of 2022 to today when we actually got what we wished for. The coaching staff delivered. The players delivered. I am excited. I know the people who are in this chat are excited, so don't think I'm talking directly to you. But just in general, the vibe around the Nebraska football team doesn't feel as good as I would have hoped it would be at this point in the year. My Maryland preview video isn't even going to get 10,000 views. Not that I care about the views on my video, but the point is that's a good barometer to tell where the interest is. There are only 7,000 people interested in understanding what's going to happen in this Maryland-Nebraska game, a game that has a 2-point spread, a game where one of those teams is going to get back to a bowl game, a game where if Nebraska wins it, like I said, they're still in the running for something bigger. Why isn't there any hope? Today I brought Johnston on because if there's one person who can bring hope, one person who's more excited than me and who believes more in Nebraska football than I do, it's got to be him. John, wait. I want to make sure I click the right one. Bang. We got you. The most optimistic.
Oh my God. What? I'm supposed to live up to that?
Well, you're the most optimistic Nebraska fan I know. You don't have an ounce of pessimism in you. You've never said anything negative about this team. You've always believed. You were a huge Scott Frost supporter. I know you were upset when he got fired. You've always been a supporter of Matt Rule. You've thought Harburg was Heisman worthy. So because you've been so positive, I thought you needed to come and give us a reason to believe that Nebraska can win tomorrow. I did not watch, or I at least didn't see, if you did a Maryland preview or pick'em video. So I don't know anything about what you're thinking this week. But I do know that I do value your opinion.
All right. Wow. That's a whole lot of sucking up, man. I did a preview. What I do every week is I try to get somebody from the opposite team, and then I do a live show with them. But I did interview a Maryland guy, and I think the biggest thing about Maryland is, you know, they started 5-0 and they lost their last 4 games, and this is going to be really this weekend for them, for Maryland. It's going to be. Is their season just over and they're going to, you know, just try to live on through it and trying to like say, oh, we're a team, or are they going to actually have some fight in them? I think it's a big deal that this game is in Lincoln.
If it wasn't, then I'd be a little bit more nervous.
Yeah. You know, I was shocked that we lost to Michigan State because I didn't think that they had any fight left in them. And we came out in that game and played flat. And I don't see us doing that 2 weeks in a row.
I think they looked a lot worse last week than they actually are, and that's the point that I don't think a lot of people can get over.
You know, it's funny that we all, you know, we complain about the defense. Oh, the defense didn't play well. They gave up 20 frickin' points, man. I mean, if you have a team every week that you go, they're probably going to give up 20 points, you're normally going to go, well, we're going to win all of our games. You know, so the defense played well. They just didn't play as well as they needed to overcome a bad offense and 3 turnovers. So,
and this season so far, Nebraska has obviously turned it over more than anybody else in the country. They've still won 5 games. They can still beat teams that they're better than on paper.
Yeah.
Is there a team left? I mean, maybe you could argue Iowa is a better team on paper than Nebraska is. I can't find arguments to say Maryland is. I think Maryland has a few good players, but they don't have as good of coaches. They're not in as good of a situation right now. They don't have the same motivation. Nebraska's in a way better spot. And that's why I'm so excited for this week. That's why I'm so confident that this isn't going to be one of those battles where Nebraska has to claw out and try and win by 3. I think they're going to win this comfortably. 10 plus. I actually changed my prediction, John. So this week I said Nebraska would win 20, I believe it was 27-17. I'm going to change that. I think Nebraska's going to win 30-17. I think they are going to win by almost 2 touchdowns. You saw the weather report? Someone texted it to me today. Let's see if I can pull this up.
It looks like a beautiful fall day in Lincoln.
Beautiful fall day, but wind. You know what Maryland football is going to be hurt by? Anything that affects their quarterback. Because you know what Maryland football does not do well? They don't run the ball well.
Yeah.
They haven't run it well all year, even though they have talented running backs. Their offensive line isn't built to be a power run team like some of these other Big Ten schools. And because of that, I'm hoping this wind can be a factor. And if it can, it could be a total game changer for Nebraska. And that's why I'm going to say that I think they're going to be able to win this comfortably. Obviously, this is going to be a challenge. I don't want to discount this because Nebraska is not a world beater. They don't have a quarterback who's going to light it up. They find ways to get it done, but I'm still optimistic.
What was it? The last game they had, they threw the ball 40 times and ran it like 7.
Yeah, they ran it. I think they had a total of 7 running back carries.
And then against Penn State, they were held to negative 49 yards rushing.
Wow, they got sacked so many times. I think they gave up 6 sacks that day.
Yeah. And it was Penn State's lowest opponent rushing output for, I don't know, some like 1925 or some bloody thing like that.
Yeah, they're not a complete team. They're one-dimensional, and we've seen Nebraska struggle as a one-dimensional team. So as long as the defense can play well, even though the secondary's been a little bit rough this year, I think they're going to bounce back and have a good day.
Did you know that Nebraska had 0 penalties against Michigan State?
Was it 0?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I thought it was at least 1.
You know the last time that happened?
1941.
It might seem like it. It was 2005. I couldn't believe that when I heard it.
Yeah, I didn't even realize that was a stat, but that's impressive.
Yeah. So, I guess you look for bright spots and you hope they carry forward.
That's one of them.
Yeah, it is. I mean, all the false starts we've seen for a long time, and, they didn't have a single one. So, I don't know.
So, even though they're coming off a loss, do you think it's worth paying $5 to watch the game? Or, sorry, $6 to watch the game?
Well, we get Peacock at our house because my youngest son still lives with me, and he likes EPL soccer. So, it's not a big... Yeah, I do. By the way, on Peacock, you can get English Premier League soccer and all kind of weird rugby, like Australian rules football, I think, and rugby. And it's fun watching stuff you have no idea what's going on.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, it's $6 for God's sakes. It's like a cup of nice coffee. I think I never do that.
So I'm going to obviously buy this. I haven't bought it yet. I'm going to do it tonight, $6, and I'm going to cancel right after because I don't watch European League soccer and I'm not that into rugby. Got other things I'm paying attention to, but I am going to pay the $6. And you got to remind me. So when I was 12 years old, I remember, I think Nebraska was playing Baylor or Iowa State. I might have been 11. Who knows? It was a really long time ago, early 2000s. I wanted to watch the game. Couldn't watch it because my dad didn't want to pay for it. How much were games on pay-per-view back then?
$50.
$50.
I mean, I think it started like at, the $49.95 thing, and then it went down to $29.99 for each game. And, that was just the cost of the games if you wanted to see them. So
I would still pay that today. So anyone who's argued that they're not going to watch this game or they can't watch this game because they don't have Peacock, I don't know. Seems a little ridiculous to me. It's well worth it to watch a 4-hour game. My friends pay like $70 for UFC fights, and then they watch 2 minutes of it before the guy gets knocked out. So for 4 hours of entertainment, I'll take it. Caleb says, I'm calm now. Wait. Discord. I'm calm now. I feel the boys will bounce back, including the defense. These boys are hungry. Thank you for the $5 super chat. Thank you for being a member. I think that's kind of the point that I was trying to make this week. Nebraska's down, but they're not out. Nebraska's looked bad, but that's not how they've played this entire season, and that doesn't line up with how they feel about themselves. They're a 5-win team, and they feel like they should be a 7-win team. And because of that, I think they're going to come out with a different fire than they did last week, a fire that matches what they came out with against Illinois, right? Illinois was the last time they came off of a loss, and they played fantastic. And I think we'll see something similar, especially because they're going to be back at home. Do you think that playing at 11 a.m. is going to mess with the energy at all?
I don't. People make a big deal about that. And I understand going to a night game, it's a little wilder. Everybody's been drinking all day. And, when you're in the stadium, it's like a giant battery of emotion. But I guess you look at this and you go, yeah, right. What it comes down to is this. One of these teams is going to be bowl eligible, and the other one is going to be filled with anxiety and despair.
I don't think Maryland makes a bowl game if they lose this game, because they play Michigan the next week, and Michigan's going to be pissed off coming off a loss to Penn State, foreshadowing my predictions for this week. And then they got to play Rutgers at the end of the year. I think Rutgers might beat Iowa this week. Rutgers has got some momentum, and that's going to be at home. So, yeah, Maryland's in a tough spot if they lose this one. Tater, thank you for the 5. Thank you for being a member. I'm very confident Nebraska wins tomorrow, but I do think it will be a nail-biter towards the end of the 4th. Either way, FETINHGBR LO. What's that mean?
That means fuck everything. There is no hope, no Big Red.
I love
it. That's the hashtag.
I didn't know you made a hashtag for it. That's a long one to spell out.
It is. It is.
You should have done FETINH t-shirts or hats.
We have those.
Oh, you do?
We do. Somebody else actually came up with that. I didn't come up with the hashtag. So other people came up with that, and I just, went, okay, I'll go with this.
I love it. College Football with Sam. Have you ever seen his videos?
I've watched a few of them.
Sam's pretty good. He gives really in-depth analysis, and he watches all the Big Ten teams and he watches obviously my show because he likes to keep up with Nebraska, but he's predicting Rutgers is going to beat Iowa 20-10. You know what's so interesting about Iowa losing is if they do lose a game, I think that kind of crushes their morale a little bit. I think it could be really good for Nebraska in this next couple weeks. And I hope that if Nebraska does win this, that people start to get back on board with the excitement that I have for potentially winning the West, because I do think it's a realistic possibility. Do you think, I don't want to ask you if you think they can win the West. I want to ask you if you think a Maryland win puts their chances at least 50% chance of winning the West.
Well, yeah. Because did you watch Wisconsin last week?
Yes, against Indiana. They were, oh my God.
God. Yeah.
They're a mess.
It was shocking. I guess it was shocking to me. They lost their starting quarterback. They have Brandon Locke in there. I guess I was surprised that, you're surprised anytime anybody loses to Indiana, for God's sake.
Right.
They look terrible.
Yeah.
I think the thing is, Nebraska, as they've gone on through the season, they've had all these injuries. Excuse me. But, the defense has continued to improve. The offense has just found ways to exist, which I think is pretty remarkable. They're squeezing as much juice as they can out of the players they have. And
out of true freshmen.
Yeah. And, you're seeing some of those like Malachi Coleman, Jaden Doss, those guys can be players in the years to come. So that's good for the future. Emmett Johnson has certainly showed up and played well.
Yeah, it gives me, last week's game against Wisconsin gives me a lot of hope that if Nebraska does win against Maryland, that they're going to beat them, which would be obviously a really positive thing, because even though this is, I have to say, this is the weakest Wisconsin team I've seen since Nebraska joined the Big Ten. It's not even close. Last year was a bad Wisconsin team. This year, they're even worse. And it actually makes you think about the Matt Rule versus Luke Fickell discussion. Also go to the Matt Rule versus Deion Sanders discussion back at the beginning of the year. How the tables have turned, and the reason that Matt Rule was valued so much higher than either of those two coaches. He's done a lot better of a job, at least in year one, and I don't think he was given as much to work with, at least not as much to work with in terms of Wisconsin. So it's interesting. Alan, thank you for the $6 super chat. He said, for your Peacock GBR. Thank you, Alan, for paying for my Peacock membership so I can watch the game tomorrow. Appreciate it a ton. Evan, thank you for the 10. Thank you for being a member. I think we have to take into account that it's an 11 a.m. kick, and Maryland has to travel a long distance to Lincoln. Also, the wind will have an effect on throwing games. So Nebraska 20-14 GBR. I like it. That's kind of how I feel. I don't know about the 11 a.m. kick because it'll be noon for them. So they're coming back an hour. So I don't think they'll be too tired. And I think Nebraska's already practicing in the morning. So I don't think the 11 a.m. kick is going to be that big of a deal. I think the factor for a morning kick is the fans. How amped up will they be? I was listening to Husker Online's podcast today, and Sean Callahan mentioned that these tickets are the cheapest they've been all season, which was surprising to me. It's a 60-degree day in Lincoln, Nebraska in November. My understanding is that it gets cold in Nebraska and you can't go outside after a certain time in the year. So why the hell aren't you out at the Nebraska game while they've still got something to play for? I am surprised, but we all live different lives. I'll be interested.
I think they were like $9.
That's so
you can get tickets. Yeah, it is. It's
you can essentially go to the game for free. Smoking Cactus, thank you for becoming a member. So, John, there's been a lot that's happened this week. We'll talk more about Maryland in a minute. I want to go to my screen share. And first, I want to pull up what I want to talk about. So, first things first. Where was it? Was it this? No, was it this one? Yeah. Jim Harbaugh gets suspended from the sidelines by the Big Ten for the remainder of the season. Does that mean he can coach in the coaching box?
Well, that's a good. I think that he cannot coach in the game,
so he can still be at practice and still be a part of it. Yes. But he can't coach in the game. Okay, so that happens. Okay, I don't really have an opinion on it. I'm going to let you tell me your opinion on it in a second, but I'm going to fast forward before I get back to your opinion on that. JJ McCarthy posts, and so did a bunch of other Michigan players today, and they all said bet. You know what bet means, John?
No.
You'd have to go on Urban Dictionary to learn, but fortunately, you've got me here to teach you.
Thank God.
Bet is like it's kind of a passive aggressive term that he's using here. Like, oh, okay, like this is how you want to play it. Then we're gonna go and beat Penn State. Like we're gonna make sure you feel our wrath. It's kind of the way he's using that word.
Okay.
So now Dave Portnoy puts out shirts, say bet on him. I love it because obviously it's something to inspire confidence if you're a Michigan fan and get you excited and amped up. So I like it. This is all good for pageantry of college football, right?
Yes.
But go back to the actual suspension.
Yeah.
What do you think about the suspension and the Big Ten doing it now? Obviously, they're in the middle of their investigation, I think. I don't think they've finalized an investigation. I don't think they've proven anyone guilty. I think there's a lot of speculation, and there's a lot that says online, or at least from media outlets, that someone is guilty of some things over there at Michigan. But obviously innocent until proven guilty. Suspension happens. What are you thinking?
Well, I did a video earlier just because it kind of ticked me off. I think it's kind of dumb. I think it's dumb because it gives Michigan an out because, it's nice to put up T-shirts that say bet, but they still have to go to Happy Valley and play a football game against one of the best defenses in the nation. And they have to do it without their sign stealing expert on the sideline and their head coach on the sideline, unless they can file an injunction in time. And the key is today was a holiday, a federal holiday for Veterans Day. So the courts are closed. I don't know how you can file a quick I'm not a lawyer. I don't understand how that does that, but it was interesting that they waited till Friday when the courts were closed to, give out the suspension. So to make sure he stayed suspended, I guess. I don't know.
Sounds strategic.
It does, but I think it's dumb because, if they lose to Penn State, then the Michigan fans can claim that it was because they didn't have their head coach on the sideline. And if it stays a suspension, then of course they get to claim the same thing for Ohio State. I'm more of a long-term guy. I would have rather they just waited and says, we're going to do all the investigation. The NCAA is going to do the investigation. If the NCAA finds stuff, they suspend him from postseason play for 3 years. They drop 30 scholarships,
The only issue I would have with that, I will tell you, you're hurting the Michigan players. Obviously, they can all transfer out, and then you get kind of shitty players for the next 3 years, kind of like what happened with Penn State after the Sandusky scandal. But it's tough because I don't know how much the players are at fault for this situation and how much it's on the coaches. And if you suspend Harbaugh, he's going to the NFL anyway. He's tried to go to the NFL the last 2 years. He's failed to get a job. This time, he'll probably get one anyway. So you suspend him from what? He'll never coach in college again? I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. The other thing with that is, again, not a lawyer, but they better have all of this stuff, what they did was they didn't blame Jim Harbaugh. What they did was they put the responsibility on the University of Michigan for violating the sportsmanship policy. So it wasn't, we're not attacking Harbaugh. Now, the problem with this is they better have a lot of stuff on him.
Right.
Because if they don't, then Jim Harbaugh can turn around and sue the Big Ten for irreparable harm, probably, and, make a gajillion dollars. Because if somebody attacks me and ruins my reputation, they go, what? He makes $10 a year. What's he going to sue us for? 30?
Right. That's a
Jim
great
Harbaugh
question.
makes a crap ton of money. So, if you harm him and harm his future income in the eyes of the law with lawyers that you pay a lot of money to, you have the chance of paying out a lot of money that goes to Jim Harbaugh and it doesn't go to the University of Nebraska. So I hope that they have all of their ducks in a row, and I trust that they do. That's the first test of a new commissioner. I would have rather they waited. And if they, if they waited and then Michigan won their games and they won the Big Ten, for the rest of our lives, you have decades ahead of you. You could, any time that any Michigan fan brought up 2023, you could look at them and go, oh, you mean the asterisk year?
Exactly.
The year you cheated all year long? That year that you claim that is illegitimate completely?
Mm-hmm.
And you have to look at Michigan and understand that their last sole title is in 1948. And their last shared title is in 1997.
That's insane. So Michigan has been
Michigan has been one of the best programs in the nation for, their history. But titles, no. So, we could have waited. I know everybody wanted something done now and the instant gratification thing, but I really would have preferred they waited.
Do you think that he'll coach in the playoffs if they make it?
Well, that'll be up to, that'll probably be up to the NCAA because that's not a Big Ten thing. But, the Big Ten can only control. They suspended him for the rest of the regular season. We'll see what happens down the
from
line.
there. Caleb, Thank you for the $5 super chat. Matthew, thank you for the $5. He says, we're about to find out how little a head coach means in game with a bunch of 4- and 5-star players and top tier coordinators. They're huge cheaters. Harbaugh equals gone. And that's kind of my perspective on it. Harbaugh not being on the sideline, I don't think it's going to affect the game that much. He's a manager and he's a CEO when he's on the sideline. I'm sure he has a hand in play calling to some degree, but he has some of the best coordinators in the country. He has obviously some of the best players in the country. Does it really matter? Well, it didn't matter for the first 4 games of this season. What's more interesting to me is that this is his second suspension for the season. How many rules are being broken? And this isn't the only guy who's breaking rules in college football, but big spotlight on this dude over the last 6 months. So Alan, thank you for the 10. Yeah.
The other problem is it's Michigan. And Michigan's always had this, we're Michigan, man. We're the highest integrity. We're better than everybody else. They're kind of like, when you're around Texas people, they have that arrogance about them and they can do that.
Yeah.
They can do that by themselves, right? If there was like 50 Oklahoma fans and one Texas person, they'd still be a complete prick by themselves. Michigan people probably aren't that outwardly prickish, but they're still, like, oh, we're Michigan, man. And now you look at them and you go, you guys are supposed to be better than us. And this is how you're doing this. What the hell is wrong with you? And then you're denying and you're deflecting. And okay, you built the biggest freaking spy network. Nobody else even ever considered that.
Well, to be fair, they've been down bad, like you said, since 1947. They had to do what they had to do if they were going to get on over Ohio State.
That's true. I mean, what was it? I saw a tweet today that said something about Jim Harbaugh has been suspended more times than Bulls he's won. So.
It's hilarious. That's actually funny. Yeah. It's so true. He's missed more games than Bulls he's played in. Okay, Alan says, and thank you for the 10, Alan. Do you think we'll get back to an attacking defense and not play prevent? I'll let you start with this answer, John.
Well, Tony White this week said he was going to unleash them, and he felt that he didn't blitz enough against Michigan State. So, we'll see. Talia he's kind of mobile. I mean, he's pretty mobile. We'll see what he does under pressure, I guess.
He can move, but he's not a guy who runs it too much past the line of scrimmage. But he does move around in the back of back of the play and wait for something to develop, which Nebraska has been gashed on at times this year. They especially got wrecked on it against Minnesota with Kaliak Manis in the first half at least, and then Shador worked them all day. So that can hurt them, but I do think that the defense is going to bring more pressure. I think the key word's attack. I don't think they're going to sit back and wait for things to come to them. I think they're going to try to hit early on, and they're going to try to make their presence felt. So hopefully, as long as they don't sell out or miss tackles, which they've been one of the best tackling teams that we've seen at Nebraska in, I think, like 15 years, I feel pretty comfortable. So Caleb has another question. Thank you for the 5. After this incident, do you see college football allowing headsets and helmets to help avoiding this situation again? Why don't they allow headsets and helmets?
Because it's costly.
It's expensive? That's the reason they don't do it?
Here's the thing.
That doesn't make sense because now all the money's coming in. We have the money to pay for headsets and helmets.
But here's the thing. My life is in IT, and I work with people who design wireless systems, and they work on wireless systems. And yesterday, I actually had a phone call with a guy who does design of wireless systems, and I asked him about this stuff. In the NFL, you have to have radios and helmets. The radios, on the sideline, it's a one-way transmission to the quarterback. There's a control in place where the transmission is cut off 10 seconds before the play starts. All right. So that's, and number one, you have to, each team is assigned their own frequency. The transmissions are encrypted. You're not going to, does Radio Shack even exist anymore? My God.
I don't think it
You're not going to buy a walkie frickin' talkie. You have to put something in the helmet that's not going to bother the quarterback or the player. You have to have all of the conditions set for it. You're probably going to have a structure in place where each team has to be assigned their own frequency, right? And encrypted. And again, it's not a walkie-talkie. So it is an entire structure that you have to set up. And, then there's the whole 10 seconds and control thing going on with that. You could look at it and say, well, the NFL's already done this. They've done it. Why don't they just help college football? The NFL doesn't give anything away to anybody ever for any reason whatsoever. So yes, they do have this, and it's proprietary. I think it's by Telex or somebody, and it's proprietary. So if you're going to go license it from the NFL, why not just give them some of your kids or your arm or something? That's the problem with it. So all of this stuff is an additional cost and structure and set of rules that has to be put in place. Helmets designed, unless you're just going to use the helmet design from the NFL and the same radios. And again, there's a cost associated with this.
It's one thing when you're talking about Ohio State, Bama, and Nebraska doing it. It's different when we're talking about Southern Miss and Tulane.
Right. And
Makes
all
sense.
of these colleges are going to... Nobody talks about the fact that there's an enrollment cliff coming in 2 or 3 years in which a lot of these colleges are going to struggle significantly because their enrollments are dropping. Because you guys aren't having kids, you damn young people. Right?
I agree.
Yeah.
With that. Yeah, I've heard that before.
You're not having kids, so they're not going to college. The University of Arizona the other day had a meeting with their president to find out that they have a $240 million difference between what they thought they had in money and what they actually have. And in the article, they actually said one physics professor recommended to the president, why don't we sell the athletic department?
Jesus,
Think
that sounds
about
extreme.
that for a minute. Yeah, that's the cost they're facing all over the place. I know that's way off the track of athletics, but it still affects everything.
Well, I think that eventually, I hear your argument. Eventually, if it does become an issue and they feel like they need to make a change and there's enough big time conferences who says we're going to do this, then it's going to just overtake college football. Everyone's going to have to figure out where to find the money and do it. The media rights deals are already big enough to, I don't know how much this would cost. It sounds like it wouldn't be that big of a deal. $50,000 a school, you only got to do 3 helmets. So even if you got to build the interface and build a system for it, $50,000 a school is, John, even for Southern Miss, they're going to figure out a way to get that done.
Probably not bad. But again, it's you're looking at the public sector. You're looking at people that live in bureaucracies, regardless if it's football, trying to put together stuff. They already are terrible at passing rules and laws as it is.
I hear you. I think that's the bigger issue. The bigger issue is getting something done. Getting shit done is hard. I agree with that because there are so many layers and people got to check it off. Okay, that makes sense. When we're talking about a little bit of money, we've got unlimited money right now in college football. That's a hard argument.
Okay. The other issue that people are not bringing up and they don't talk about at all is what's going on the sidelines. I mean, if you the next time you go to a college football game, one that's, a bigger name game,
Yeah.
look at all of the people that are on the sidelines. How did they get there? How did they get passes?
You're talking about the people are you talking about the people in the team box from the 30 to 30? Or are you talking about all the people everywhere?
All over the place.
Okay.
I was at a game and I'm standing, the problem is you're looking down a camera lens and your vision's distorted. So you a lot of times don't realize how fast the receivers are coming at you. So I pulled my lens down. The receiver's a lot closer. I went to back up and get away from him. And I ran into two girls behind me, young girls that were looking at their phones, like you young people do all the time. And, the guy missed me, got tackled in front of me. I turned around and I said, you got to pay attention. We're going to get killed here. And then I said, do you mind me asking why you're on the sidelines? And it turned out that they both were one of them was the granddaughter of a big donor for the school. And the other one was her friend. When you look at the sidelines, I promise this is going somewhere, by the way. When you look at the sidelines, there are just crap tons of people all over the place.
There are, I agree.
When you look at people that go into facilities, there's crap tons of people.
I've been one of them.
Well, okay, yeah. Do you think that because of this whole Connor Stallion things that they're probably going to be paying more attention to that in the future?
That's a good question. I don't know. I don't know. Do you think that all the random people on the sideline matter? We're more worried about people who are associated with the staff. I mean, we talk about random people, right. The random people who were basically paid by Connor Stallions to go and watch these games. It's weird. I don't know. I don't know how it'll affect things.
There's going to be a lot more attention paid to who's being what and who's doing what where.
In terms of who's hired on the staffs, maybe that's true.
Well, and who has sideline access and who has access to facilities and stuff like that.
Yeah, I think that's
be a bigger deal than most people think it is.
I think that's something that will happen sooner than a change to the helmets, unless they already have a plan for the helmets. But I think that's something where you got to have rules in place to know what everyone's role is. Going back, John, you said 30-year-olds aren't having kids. Look, this is the problem. TikTok and YouTube take a lot of freaking time, okay? I can't afford to be messing around with a 2-year-old right now when I got to make a live stream. And then I got to edit and do all my stuff. Where do I got time for a 2-year-old? I'm trying to work.
You can do what Adam Carricker does, and they're always special guests.
Different. Adam Carricker had the kids before he did the content. He was strategic. I messed up. I started doing the content first. The content became my kid. It's tough.
That's true.
Okay, I want to talk about the Maryland, Nebraska preview. Okay. I went and pulled this one up from Winners and Winers. I like their previews every week. It says Maryland opened the season at 5-0 and is now 5-4 after 4 straight losses. It's one thing to lose to Ohio State by 20 on the road, but it's another to fall to Illinois by 3 at home and Northwestern on the road by 6 as a 14.5-point favorite. Yeah. Imagine losing to Northwestern by 6 when you're supposed to win by 14, and Northwestern's supposed to be the worst team in the Big Ten this year. That's a mental breakdown waiting to happen. Last week might not have been rock bottom, but it was close. In front of a big crowd at Maryland Stadium, they were crushed 51-15 and gave up 27 points in the fourth quarter, which I think that's an alarming number because typically when a team has a blowout win, they start to slow down in the fourth. Penn State made sure to make a point, and Maryland couldn't do anything about it.
They did.
You can point out several major issues for Maryland's troubles as of late. They played a soft schedule early on, and it's come back to haunt them. Their offensive line was embarrassingly bad against Penn State and hasn't been good all year. Ominous sign going up against the front seven like Nebraska has, by the way. They surrendered 6 sacks back-to-back weeks, and the running game was beyond bad. The defense has allowed 37 points during this 4-game losing streak, and they actually played better against Ohio State than they did against Northwestern and Illinois. They actually had the lead at Ohio State at halftime. And then after that, everything came crashing down. Talia, who had a pick and a fumble last Saturday, is still one of the better passers in the Big Ten. He completed 29 of 39 for 286 yards and 2 TDs against Penn State. Also, I think he throws at least 30 passes every single game. So they are going to try to attack Nebraska's secondary, which is why it's such a big deal that they get back to that attacking mentality. Overall this season, he's completed 65% for 2,400 yards with 21 TDs and 7 picks. Roman Hemby leads their rushing with 440 yards and 4 TDs, but the run game's been dreadful because the offensive line, Defensively, they're pretty good against the run. They struggled against the pass, and that number's skewed because they've played FCS, Towson, and Charlotte, and also Virginia. And that's why their defense looks better than it actually does, or at least ranks higher. Then there's a bunch of positive talk about Nebraska, which we all know that talk. And it says you can throw most of the stats out on this one. Maryland is playing about as poorly as anyone in the Big Ten. Yeah, I'd say them and Wisconsin are the 2 worst teams in the Big Ten today. They've had some distractions in their coaching staff, led by a DWI of co-OC Kevin Sumlin during their bye week. And they're really just playing for pride in a minor bowl game, after their hopes were set at least 8 wins this year. Keep that in mind. Right. They thought, because last year they won their bowl game and they finished off hot. This year's Talia's last year, they had Roman Hemby back, who people thought was going to be a running back that could go to the NFL. I mean, they had the talent. Nebraska's playing for a bowl game, which could be considered an accomplishment. And this site says that they think Nebraska will win and cover. So I like that prediction because it gives me hope that my prediction might be right too. I think the people who are in our live chat, John, I think most of the people who visit Corn Crazed and are a little bit more diehard and would watch you and I talk live at 6 o'clock on a Friday night, or I guess 8 o'clock Nebraska time on a Friday night, instead of being out with their families or friends at a bar or doing something else, I think they're believers. They're people who are like us. And because of that, I don't get a lot of fight back in the comments saying, no, Nebraska sucks. It's when I post the video and then 4 hours from now, people go in, Connor, you don't know what you're talking about. Maryland's a great team. They're going to win, which all of that's fine. I want to pause really quick. I want to shout out our sponsor for today's video, characterchronicles.com. If you go to Adam's site, he's got all of his content up here. You can watch his videos from his YouTube channel. You can see the other shows he does. He does a Big Ten show. He's on the ticket. And if you scroll all the way to the bottom, you got some Connor Hayden, Corn Craze stuff, some John Johnston, Corn Nation, and it just goes on. So make sure, if you guys have not yet, check out Adam's site. He's a big supporter of our show, and it's helped me to be able to produce content for free all year long. You guys, this is a grind, I promise you. So getting anyone to support me and help me has been a big deal, and Character stepped up and told me that he really enjoyed our show and that he appreciated what we've been doing for the Nebraska community, and he wanted to help us out. So that's been fantastic for us and for obviously the Corn Crazed Army, who likes to get a bunch of content. One more question I have for you before I transition to a different team. Chubba Purdy has been talked about as a quarterback who some Nebraska fans would like to see. What's your take on benching Heinrich Haarberg in favor of Chubba Purdy in the last 3 weeks of the season?
We haven't seen Chubba Purdy this season. I don't have an answer for that. I think we've always, the pat answer is you have to trust the coaches of what they're doing. And Jeff Sims has looked god awful, and that was a big miss out of the portal for that one, I guess. And I don't think anybody wants to see him on the field again. So it's Chubba Purdy. Why is Chubba Purdy not played? I don't know. I mean, I thought last year when he played, he didn't look that bad. And we've heard that he can throw the ball decently. So, maybe we'll see him against Maryland. I wouldn't bench Heinrich Haarberg, though, because I just think that I don't think he didn't play well against Michigan State. He was tentative. He didn't, one of the things that I said on our show was what I'd like to see from Haarberg this week is stepping up in the pocket. He does have a pocket.
I want to see him release the ball instead of hold on to it. He doesn't get it out fast enough.
No.
And when he does get it out fast enough, he looks good.
Yeah, he stands back there for a while. But the other thing he doesn't do is he doesn't step up in the pocket and then he starts, freaking out and then everything comes apart. Obviously the middle of the field was open on his touchdown run and he made the decision to go and then he went. And that's the other thing is he's looked really, like when he's running, sometimes he looks tentative running. He did slide last week for the first time. So, but I wouldn't put Haarberg on the sideline for Sims or for Purdy. Well, for either of them.
I don't think I'd put him on the sideline because specifically you're in the last 3 games. you're not going to
Yeah.
test out a new QB, especially with so much on the line. Harburg's gotten to 5-2. Obviously, he has his own issues, but
Right.
so do the other quarterbacks, and their issues are going to come out. Last year, in 6 games, Purdy was 22 of 48, 45% completion for 147 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions. He didn't run very much. He didn't look like the quarterback I thought he would be. And I know it was under Mark Whipple. I know the offense was a lot different. The offensive line was even worse. But he still didn't look good enough to give me any hope that I would want to see him right now. Not when there's so much on the line. And when I know that Harburg does have the talent to work magic and miraculously win. I mean, I don't want to say miraculously win because all of these teams suck just like Nebraska does. But he has enough in there to find a way to get it done on offense. He can score. So I'd rather just ride with him and lean on the defense.
I think the key for him is just don't turn the ball over. That's just it. Don't throw the pass to the other team. I mean, if you throw it away, take, slide, hit the ground, do something, get out of the pocket and throw it out of bounds. Just don't turn the ball over, and Nebraska would be fine the rest of our games. And that's really the key to the rest of the season, Yeah,
Nebraska would win every game on this end of the schedule if they had 0 turnovers in every game.
Yeah.
How crazy is that to think? It's true though.
It's fun.
Okay, so Turd Ferguson says, all right, let's talk about it. If we win, predict the bowl matchup.
Oregon in the Rose Bowl.
You're on drugs. You know why that can't happen? And why is it you're on drugs?
Why?
Because you're not even in the same world that college football is living in 2023. The Rose Bowl is a playoff game.
Oh,
the
it
Rose
is.
Bowl
Okay.
is not an option. You're also on drugs because Oregon is going to be playing in the playoff. Okay, so let's reset. Nebraska wins tomorrow, and we don't know about.
I thought he meant win them all.
I know. No. Nebraska wins tomorrow. Okay. I don't know what's your prediction for Nebraska's final season. Well, no, let's talk about it because this is a prediction show. Nebraska beats Maryland. What's their final record?
You mean for the season?
Yep.
Oh, well, I think if they beat Maryland, they're going to beat Wisconsin and Iowa.
Okay.
I think that Iowa's going to be a very, very tough game just because it's frickin' Iowa and their defense is extremely well coached.
Okay.
And they play extremely good defense. So that's going to be tough no matter what.
Okay, so let's say 8 wins for Nebraska.
Yeah.
What bowl are they playing in?
Outback Bowl.
Outback Bowl.
I don't know. I don't even know.
One of the Florida bowls.
I don't look that far ahead, man.
Yeah, no, those are the bowl games reserved for teams like Iowa who win 8 or 9 games. And if Nebraska did win out, they would obviously go to one of those bigger bowls. So that'd be a potential. If they played in one of those, they could play against, I don't know who in the SEC is decent this year. Who could get there?
In the SEC, they play an SEC team?
They would play an SEC team if they... Yeah, in the Outback Bowl, I think it's SEC, or in the Music City Bowl, they'd play an SEC team. So it'd be one of those. So I'm not sure. It'd be like a Tennessee, maybe an Ole Miss if Ole Miss was to lose out. Oh, Missouri could be a potential. More likely, Nebraska loses one of these games. Okay, so if they do lose one, that means they're a 6 or 7 win team. Let's assume 7. Nebraska would play in Vegas. I think it'll be really hard to keep Nebraska out of Vegas. I think that's a really attractive bowl game because the Pac-12 has some really strong teams this year. You're going to have Arizona, Oregon State, USC, all 3 teams who would match up probably a little bit better than Nebraska, but all teams who would draw massive TV numbers in the game, and it'd be pretty big. And Nebraska fans would obviously be able to fill up a stadium in Vegas. So I think that'd be the game they would go to. There's obviously an off chance they would go to Phoenix, but I would lean that they would end up in Vegas. The team I would hope they'd play is USC because USC is going to have multiple guys sit out. You're going to have Caleb Williams done. You'll have other guys who are going to go pro or other guys who are going to transfer. So I think USC would be, I don't want to call it an auto win, but I'd feel very good about their chances to win that game. And it would set up for a really good game in 2024 because there'd be a little rematch.
I want to see us play Caleb Williams.
Well, unfortunately, it won't happen. Unfortunately, he will obviously sit out. There's no chance in hell. But I would like to see it. Okay. Now I got a question for you about something else that happened this week.
Oh my God. What not?
Do you know what it is already?
No.
Okay. I'm gonna pull it up. Okay. I got it. Screen share.
Is it the movies?
No movies. So this week, Lane Kiffin is being sued for $40 million after the Ole Miss defensive tackle got yelled at on that recording. Did you hear the recording?
Right. I didn't hear it, but I get the idea.
Yeah, I'll sum it up. Lane Kiffin called him a pussy. He cussed at him a little bit and said you didn't come when you didn't show up to talk to the head coach when the head coach told you to show up to talk to him. And that's basically a dismissible offense. So we're kicking you off the team. I don't care what the mental health deal is. You can't use that as an excuse. He's essentially saying you're paid to play football by the University of Mississippi, which means you have to show up and you have to communicate with your superiors. And if you don't, just like in any other job, you will be fired, just like he said he was. Now, I don't know what happened after that. I guess they didn't kick him off the team and everything, but this kid's still going after him for money. To me, it feels like a money play. So, John, you and I grew up in different eras. When I first saw this, I was frustrated because it felt like the kid obviously recorded this himself. Right. So he went into the situation either knowing that he was going to get in trouble or whatever the situation was. He recorded the conversation. I grew up in an era where coaches yelled at me. They belittled me. I got bullied. I mean, all kinds of things. And although I don't think all of those things are great, I think in 2023 with the woke mob, people have completely shied away from it. They're scared. People now will use this victim thing and they try and shame and blame everyone for their own issues because they're all victims, when in reality they bring a lot of their problems onto themselves. Right. I am a huge Lane Kiffin fan. I absolutely despise this DeSanto Rollins guy now with all this, even with mental health issues or whatever your problems are, because I've had my own mental health issues. I never use it as an excuse to not show up to the things that I'm supposed to show up to. Especially the fact that he's going after him for money is disgusting to me. But where do you stand on hard coaching and facing the harsh reality and the harsh truth in 2023? Because obviously you grew up in an era where parents beat their kids and where kids had to be responsible. And it actually, I think, led them to becoming better men. Whereas now you have people who are living in a much softer society. And I think it's resulting in some issues for people long term.
Well, my mom's favorite weapon was a pancake turner.
I don't even know what a pancake turner is. I'm going to guess it's a circular thing that opens up that you put a pancake in.
No, it's the flip. You call it a spatula. It's the flip the pancakes. And it was metal and it left welts on my ass.
I like that.
My bare ass, by the way. Yeah. I think that, how do I frame this? I didn't have coaches that screamed at me. We had a very, very Christian coach. He never swore. He really never raised his voice. But what he did do is he would just look at you and go, for that, you're running, 2 miles after practice. And he didn't have to yell at us to do anything. There wasn't no really screaming by any of our coaches. So, or no, there wasn't hazing, any of that kind of stuff where I went to high school and played football. But it was very clear that there was going to be consequences if you screwed up or you were lazy or you just didn't do things. So yeah. I think the biggest part of this is, I still work in IT. I'm a consultant. I work with a lot of guys my age. And they're frustrated in dealing with younger people because the younger people have to be managed completely different than anybody else. We brought people up and for years we said, violence is never the answer. And the honest to God truth is we probably wouldn't have as many problems as we have if some people just got punched in the face sometimes.
I think that's 100%
really bad.
True.
It's a horrible thing to say.
I don't think it is.
Well, there is that thing with, my generation, there were, you don't beat your kids. That's a bad thing to do.
I agree with that.
Excessively.
Agree with that.
Discipline is good. Beating is bad. So you get this level of, it is a generational thing in a way. But at the same time, for specifically Lane Kiffin, I think, he's, they're probably going to have to realistically settle with the guy because that's
guaranteed.
Just how things go.
That's the world we live in.
Yeah, it is. It becomes, you don't get your stuff drugged through the public eye and, you don't have to be mugged by lawyers over a long period of time, which is really costly. But I guess you look at it and you kind of go, did he really set this up to do this? Because it kind of sounds like it to me. Where he didn't bother to communicate. He didn't bother to do anything. And like you said, he clearly taped the conversation and then they release it publicly. So obviously all of that is a method of, putting pressure on Lane Kiffin. And the mental health thing is, you know, obviously the heart attack survivor, I live with a brain injury. I've dealt with a lot of issues myself. I think that it's good that we've raised the idea that mental health is health. But again, it gets to be too much a lot of the times where people kind of
They take it too far.
use it as a crutch. They use it as a crutch, and they use it as a, I'm a victim kind of thing. And it's really hard for people to determine where you go.
It's
And
sad because I
honestly,
think so many people use that victim mentality. And we're not talking about Nebraska at all right now. We're just talking about something that I'm interested in
Right.
because I saw this pop up on my Twitter today. And I think this is a good conversation to have with someone like you because obviously you have different experiences in your life than I do. And you come from a different era. So that's why I'm asking you these questions. But I live in LA. People here are very soft. They're all of them. They come up with victim excuses. And when I check them, or as a friend, I check them and I say, hey, look, I think that you're looking at this the wrong way. They get offended. They get upset with me and they call me names or whatever. I've made some comments on my YouTube channel, just little comments, nothing crazy. And people will jump in and say, I can't believe you just said XYZ. I'm unsubscribing. Number one, I don't care. Go ahead. I don't want your energy here anyway. Peace. But it's this whole idea that younger people have used this victim mentality against themselves and they're hurting themselves long term. The best things for me was when I had hard coaching. When my coach, I remember this very clearly. I was 16 years old. I'm sitting in the football locker room area and the coach gets our report cards. The words he used towards me in front of the entire team, I couldn't sleep for 2 nights. I was so stressed out, so disappointed in myself. It was a mental breakdown after that, right? But it was good for me. I fought back from it. He called me an effing, I don't even know what I can say on YouTube, an effing someone with a mental disability because I had
trust me, you can say anything on YouTube.
Can you? I'm afraid. YouTube's so woke. They'll kick me off for anything. Anyway, calls me an effing retard. I was like, geez, that's harsh. I'm 16 years old. I just got 3 Fs. I know I'm struggling in school, but I'm having a hard time with some other personal issues. It made me better. And I know all the ways that it made me better. And there were times at school where I didn't get punched in the face, but I got bullied a little bit and it made me strive for more. And I think because people don't get checked, because they don't have those moments in their lives that are wake up calls, they never wake up. They always end up the way they are, and they use, like you said, all these things as crutches. So unfortunately for Lane Kiffin, he's going to have to shell out some money. Fortunately for Lane Kiffin, he's got a lot of money, and he's not going to worry about whatever he has to pay. That $40 million is ridiculous. It's going to be, somewhere in the few thousands of dollars. But
if
still.
you remember the whole Mike Leach, Craig James, they put the kid in the closet thing, and that whole thing was a disaster all around for everybody too. So.
Yeah.
But people my age really do. They struggle with the younger generation where they seem to need to be complimented on everything. They need to not hear anything negative or, it destroys them and then they don't want to work and they get, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very different. A lot of people my age, put it this way, I'm 61 years old. Okay. There's a lot of people I work with that are like, when are you retiring? When are you retiring? When are you retiring? That's how it goes. And we're all looking at each other and going, how many years do I have to go to Medicare? Because health insurance is the reason why a lot of people keep working. So for them, it's very difficult handling the younger generation. And honestly, it'd probably be best. I think a big problem is this. And this, again, isn't about Nebraska football. If I go on social media, I see so many comments about, the boomers and the gen, whatever the hell it is, and the differences between them. And you guys are horrible and you're to blame. And if we honest to God just had conversations where we actually had conversations instead of screaming stupid comments at each other on social media, it would probably be much easier to deal with.
People don't like having hard conversations. I think they get uncomfortable with it. I don't think their parents had them. I don't know. I'm really blessed. I came from a family where I had to have the hard conversations. I went to a school where most people engaged with each other. And now I see all this stuff online and people don't want to talk unless it's online. It's very weird. So I don't know, John. It's tough time to be alive, I guess.
Screaming. Yes, it is.
A lot of extremism.
I wouldn't even go
into
dating into your age. My God, that whole thing looks like a disaster.
Yeah, to be honest, I I don't have that issue, but a lot of my friends do. I've been really lucky in the girls I've met that I think they're all higher quality. I think they're all pretty educated, smart in some way. They aren't, they aren't, I don't know what word to use, but I don't want to be disrespectful towards women, but a lot of these girls are clean cut, we'll say. A lot of my friends don't have that experience. They run into girls who are a mess, but at the same time, look at the girls they go after. John, you wouldn't know what apps are out there. They've got these apps, like there's one called Raya, okay?
What?
Raya is for influencers only. You got to have followers. So if you don't have followers, they don't allow you onto it. That's the whole point of it. So you got to be like an industry person. So my friends get on Raya and they're like, Connor, look at this girl. I met her on Raya. Da, da, da. Look how many followers she has. I'm like, okay, that's a walking red flag. She's a narcissist. Look at her posts. You can tell, My friend's like, okay, well, she's hot. I'm gonna go out there. They go out there and then they come back and tell me these crazy stories about these girls. I'm like, dude, what are you doing? And I don't know. Maybe it's an LA thing. Maybe it's a my age group thing. It's something, John. It's a different time. My dad is your age. He loves hearing all my friends' stories because they go on forever. It's all nonsense.
You know what it is? It's problems that we do not have.
It's different problems from what you did have. Because I'm sure you had your own sets of problems back then. But yeah, it's different. Husker Chuck says, has Nebraska football been mentioned in the last 30 minutes? It was mentioned probably 15 minutes ago. You're welcome for the side conversation, though. I talk about Husker football so much, I had to bring something different up. But I am getting back to football. So, John, we're going to talk about our picks for this week. We're going to do Big Ten to start.
Okay.
So, first, I want to know what you think about the total on the Nebraska-Maryland game. It's set at 42.5. You think that goes over or under?
Under.
Under? So you think the Nebraska defense really does step up?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I just think our defense is playing much better than you mentioned it. I mean, they tackle better than they have in God knows how long. And, I think last week they gave up some explosive plays and their coach said that's a bunch of bullshit or bull crap or whatever. He probably said bull crap, didn't he? But, I think they're going to have a chip on their shoulder.
Okay, I like that. I'm going to probably take the under then. How about Michigan is at Penn State? I wish this was a night game. I think if this was a night game, Penn State would be like a 1-point dog instead of a 4-point dog. The line has moved half a point to 4 instead of 4.5 with the Harbaugh news. But who do you like, Michigan or Penn State?
Oof. Excuse me. The whole sign stealing thing has really warped your perception of Michigan, because when I watched Michigan earlier in the year, I thought this team is how you say the phrase team of destiny? They look so crisp and they look so good. I just thought, well, nobody's going to get in their way. This is going to be a team we're going to be talking about, decades from now. You, maybe me, I'll be like someplace else. But this is a team people are going to talk about for many years to come. And then all this crap happens and you're kind of like, okay, were they really that good? Or were they just knowing everything that was going on? Penn State's offense is not really dynamic. I don't think they're going to score a lot of points. I just think Michigan has too much all over the place. I really want Penn State to win. One of my closest work colleagues is a big Penn State guy. And he plays the 1982 game for me over and over and over when we're at work. But Michigan, I just think Michigan's going to win this game.
You think they're too good?
I think it'll be, Michigan starts slow in the first half. So like 14-7 in the first half and maybe 28-24 in the second half.
My original thought was Michigan's going to roll. They're a better team. And then when I looked into it, I was like, Penn State has gotten better these last couple of weeks. I felt like they bounced back strong after Ohio State. I think their defense is so damn good, and that Michigan hasn't played anybody this year. And because they haven't been tested at all, literally their hardest test was against either Nebraska, which obviously they steamrolled Nebraska, Rutgers, or UNLV. So none of those three teams are even in the same conversation as Penn State. And because of that, since Penn State has weathered the storm and they have stayed at 8-1, despite playing a couple decent teams, they played Iowa, they played Illinois on the road, who Illinois is looking better this year. I just think Penn State's been a little more battle tested, and I'm going to say they win this one hesitantly, but I say it because I do think that their schedule has been a little bit tougher than Michigan, and it has prepared them better for this game. How about Indiana at Illinois? Illinois is a 6.5 point favorite. Indiana is coming off a win, a pretty dominant win over Wisconsin. Illinois is coming off
Yeah.
like a last play win over Minnesota. Last week, they fired a 46-yard touchdown pass to, what's that guy's name? I wanted to call him Juice Williams. It's not Juice Williams. It's
No.
number 1, I think it is what number he wears. Something, Isaiah Williams.
Yes.
Okay. Who do you think wins this week?
I just don't. Indiana, it's basketball season. Nobody cares.
The focus is now
Illinois at
shifted.
home. It's Illinois at home, and I just look at Indiana and I think, why haven't you fired Tom Allen yet? And then I remember, oh, it's because it's basketball season and nobody's paying attention.
No one
I
cares.
just think Illinois can't. And then Indiana went out and beat Wisconsin. I'm like, I don't even know what to think of that.
Indiana is 3 wins away from getting to a bowl game.
Yeah, I'd still, yeah, but look at 1-5 in the Big Ten.
Yeah.
You know, I just think Illinois has a little bit more.
Okay, I'm gonna take
Oh, Go ahead.
Illinois to win, but I think Indiana can cover. I think Indiana has a really good defense, so I'll take Illinois. How about Rutgers at Iowa? Iowa is a 1.5 point favorite. The total is the lowest point total of all time at 28.5 points, which makes you think, what the hell is the total going to be in Lincoln in 3 weeks?
I think I'd probably still take the under in that game.
It's going to be like 6-3. Okay, so Iowa or
Yeah.
Rutgers?
Oh, I can't. You know what? I'd probably pick Iowa just because I just think that they're, the whole Brian Ferentz thing has been a disaster for them, and a stupid disaster. It's made them a laughing stock. And Kirk has done the same thing for 20 freaking years or 30, whatever however he's long been at Iowa. Their defensive coordinator is probably one of the best 3 coordinators in the nation. I know Rutgers is playing better. I know that their defense is tough. It's at Iowa City, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a home game.
Yeah. See, I just think it's going to be like a 13-10 game, and Iowa pulls it out some way.
It sketches me out that Rutgers would be favored on a neutral field. I will say that.
Yeah. Well, they can score.
Yeah, they have an offense.
Yeah.
But I just, it's hard to pick against Iowa with a solid defense. They find ways to win. So I'm taking Rutgers. I think Rutgers is going to win this week.
And honestly, the key to the Iowa's remaining games is really one guy, and it's Cooper DeJean. I think the guy is so good in college football that he can do things that just wreck a game. Yeah, I think Matt Rule used that phrase. And you look at that Minnesota return he had, that was one of the most phenomenal plays in a punt return I think I've seen. And then it was called back because, too
Right.
bad.
I don't think they're going to run into that issue again. But I do think if he does have a punt return for a touchdown, they win the game.
Yeah.
He can be a game changer. How about Minnesota at Purdue? Minnesota's a 2-point favorite. They're 1 game away from getting to a bowl game.
God, this is another one of these games where you just kind of go, who the hell is going to pull it out? I think Minnesota, I expected them to be a lot better this year, but their quarterback hasn't played well. Their defense has played, I think, pretty decently lately, except for, they lost to Illinois, and that was a shock.
So you
I
take
see
Minnesota?
them beating Purdue just because I think Purdue is still trying to figure out who they are and what they're doing. I know that, Ryan Walters has taken over a little bit more of the defense. And, if they can get Minnesota into some turnovers, then they'll win.
I think I'm going to take Purdue to win this one. Purdue's 2-7. They're so bad. They haven't won a Big Ten game, or they won 1 Big Ten game this year. But yeah, I just don't think Minnesota's all that good. They're going to lose 1 more game regardless because they've got to play, I think, Ohio State next week. But yeah, I'll take Purdue. How about Northwestern at Wisconsin? This is insane. Wisconsin has to give 11.5 points.
Shouldn't have been able to win a single game this year, and they've won 4. You know what I mean? They should have been a complete, unbelievable disaster, and they've kept themselves together. And the backup quarterback is, who is it? Brendan Sullivan
Yep.
is their backup, and I can't remember the name. Bryant?
Ben Bryant was the starter.
Yeah. And I think they both played way over the top of what they're capable of, or what they were supposed to be capable of. So I wouldn't be surprised that they beat Wisconsin. I don't think they'll do it because it's at Camp Randall, but
Keeping it with
yeah,
an 11 though feels inevitable. I think this is going to be a close game. It's going to be another 3 to 7 point game. I can't believe Wisconsin's giving 11.5 points. I'm guessing Tanner Mordecai or Braylon Allen's back. That's why. Braylon Allen, I'm sure, is back, but it's still way too many points when Northwestern's actually playing well. All right, let's look at some of the bigger games around the country, because there's meaningful football, not just in the Big Ten this year. There is meaningful football in the SEC.
You gave up on Ohio State, Michigan State?
Not even going to talk about it. Don't even care. Don't even care. Okay, the first one, Utah and Washington. Washington is giving 8.5 points. Do you think Utah can keep it close, or do you think Washington's a legit top 4 team in the country?
I think Washington was just. I think Washington's pretty fantastic. I don't think their defense is that great, but it's the Pac-12. Do they really have crushing defense?
Utah has crushing defense.
Yeah, that's probably true. Can they keep it with a what, 8.5?
Yeah.
I'd say yes.
I think so too, but I just think Washington's on a tear right now. They're on a mission to make sure they secure that win, because they need to make sure they win every game to get back to the Pac-12 championship game. And I'm guessing they're going to hope that if they do lose to Oregon, they have a chance to sneak in some other way and be a 2-loss or a 1-loss Pac-12 team with a championship loss, since they had such a dominating performance during the regular season. So I think they need to win every game by a lot. How about Tennessee at Missouri? So let me set the stage. Tennessee is 7-2, but they still have a path. Here's the path. Beat Missouri this week, beat Georgia next week, beat Vanderbilt the week after, beat Alabama in the conference championship game, and then what would that be? A 10-2 Tennessee or 11-2 Tennessee could make the playoff. So do you think that they start with a win on the road at Missouri?
Watch Missouri at all this year?
You haven't?
Think I would? No, I haven't.
They've been a really good team.
I've been watching a lot of the Big Ten teams, like, really closely. Tennessee, they're not going to make that run. For God's sakes, that's just enormous.
It is enormous. But can they at least win this first one?
Yeah, I'd say yes.
Missouri has a crazy passing offense, but Tennessee has a top defense. So I think Tennessee's going to do well. I'm going to take them to win. Then you have, what was another big one? Oh, Ole Miss is at Georgia. Georgia's a 10.5 point favorite. Georgia beat Missouri last week by 9. I think Ole Miss is a better team than Missouri overall. This is a night game in Georgia, though. Do you think Ole Miss has any chance?
No.
0?
Well, I mean, it wasn't a no. It was just no.
Okay.
So maybe they have 10%.
I'm such a big Lane Kiffin fan. I just want him to get that signature win. And if he could somehow knock Georgia off, it would be major for their program. And it would obviously be really cool to see Ole Miss have a chance to get to the playoff this year, because we haven't seen them. I mean, have they ever won a national championship? Probably not. I'm going to say no.
No, I don't. I don't.
Okay.
There's a lot of them that people claim back in the,
back in the 1920s.
1925s.
Those don't count. Okay, the last one that I want to get your opinion on. USC is at Oregon. Oregon's a 16-point favorite, which seems insane. USC got rid of their defensive coordinator. It's a night game at home. Oregon has to win out if they want to get to the playoff. What do you think? Do you think they win by 16, or do you think it's closer than that?
I think it's closer than that. But, Oregon and Washington was amazing to watch, just because of both offenses just shredding each other. And USC, you kind of look at them and they fired Alex Grinch. What are they going to replace him with? I mean, if they're going to replace him with a guy that they didn't think of to elevate before this game, so what's the guy going to do now? Or maybe he'll be a genius. I don't know. I think that Oregon probably wins this by like 10 or 12. USC, I just don't see really going further.
How'd you feel about watching Caleb Williams cry after the game on the sideline?
I don't like Caleb Williams. I don't at all. That has nothing to do with how I felt about him crying. I think that he picked up a lot of Lane Riley's just pure arrogance, and he carries it around with him. But at the same time, I didn't think he didn't deserve to be made fun of on social media.
I think one of
You
the
know,
reasons he got made fun of is because he made some comments about Max
right?
Duggan crying
He did.
last year.
He did.
So
And
from
people
that,
love the comeuppance.
yeah, I
People
get
love the
why
comeuppance.
they want to say something in that regard,
Yeah.
but I also understand him being such a highly competitive guy and feeling
Yeah.
like they had a chance to make a run for a playoff this year and having such a shitty defense. His
Yeah.
coach didn't have his back. Because if his coach had his back,
Nope.
he would have fired Alex Grinch last year. It was disrespectful by
Right.
Lincoln Riley to say, I have one of the top players in the country, but I'm not going to fix my defense. That was just wrong. But who knows?
Well,
Matthew,
it's Lincoln Riley.
Lincoln Riley, I think he's a little bit of an overrated head coach, if I might say so
Yeah.
myself. Matthew, thank you for the $2 super chat. He says Michigan does look great, like they know how to play. They freaking do know how to play, and I think that Matthew's taken Michigan in this one. It's funny, the comments, it's a mix. Moonbot says Caleb's soft, but Dream and Digital says she felt bad for Caleb. And
The
then
word
never mind
soft.
me.
My God, if you could copyright the word soft, you would be a billionaire in about 2.5 minutes.
Ain't that
That
ain't that
word
the
is the
truth?
most used word for this season. Unbelievable.
It is used a lot. So
What
John,
was that? If he cried, he's a bitch. Oh,
yeah, if he
come
cried, he's a
on.
bitch. There's some intensity in
Wow.
the comments section. So
I
John,
guess.
what's your morning routine like tomorrow? What's your pregame ritual?
Get up.
What time's the game on for you? It's on for 9 a.m. at me, so I have a different routine than you do.
Yes, it's 11 a.m. for me.
That's not
Honest to
bad.
God truth, because of the whole brain injury thing, I get up in the morning. I usually get up about 6:30 or 7, and it takes me a while to get going because I usually wake up with a severe headache, and then I do things that minimize the headache. I have stopped completely watching any kind of pregame shows because I just, um, game day I haven't watched for a while, and I don't. I've tried to watch Pat McAfee. He doesn't bother me as much as Desmond Howard, and Desmond Howard's just a
Don't
pinhead
like him at
jackass.
all. Don't like
Oh
him at
my
all.
God. I get it that when you're on a TV show or when you're doing what we do, sometimes you have to be on a thing and go, you three guys are going to be for this team, so I'll be for this team, so we have some conflict, and it looks like this. But the whole crap that Desmond Power pulled on us about throw that Nebraska out of the Big Ten stuff for COVID and wanting to play football, and then how much of a shill he's been for Michigan this year. Uh, toss him off game day, and I might actually watch it someday again. Uh, but that's where the EPL comes in.
Have you watched any game day with Pat McAfee or seen any clips of him? Do you like him?
Uh, Not that much.
Got it.
I mean, here's the thing. I look at Skip Bayless, and the guy gets paid so much money for just being a frothing mouth. And I wish I could do that. Obviously, I have a lot of intensity and I can be profane as hell, and I can do some of that. What I can't do is just spew stuff that I know is complete bullshit. Because I'll never keep track of it, and it bothers me to
right.
do that.
A lot of those guys just
Where
say
be
crazy
it
shit.
a complete hypocrite like Howard is, that bugs the shit out of me. And then I think that, Pat McAfee, I guess they're all like, oh, the younger people want some guy screaming. Well, Stephen A's been around for a while. Skip Bayless has been around for a while. I don't know. I guess I stopped watching ESPN College Game Day probably because it's just overproduced. There's nothing really off the cuff about it anymore. Maybe McAfee brings a little bit of that, but everything is so controlled and so produced, and I just that part of it. And okay, I'll just say this: whenever you go to an event where ESPN is doing stuff as a credentialed photographer and stuff, you have to mind your P's and Q's pretty close because ESPN controls everything very closely, and you kind of understand that because they own the footage and they own the production and they own what's going on, and they're normally decent to work with, but they can also be such control freaks that I just don't care to watch some of that stuff sometimes. You get too much of it, too much control, too much. This has to be perfect in this line. And, now we go to this guy. Oh, by the way, you can't have that sign. You can't have that sign. You know,
Those are all good
That's
points. I get it, and I think that's frustrating for me to watch it too. That's why I enjoy watching YouTubers talk about stuff more than I like
yeah,
watching polished talking heads. I
yeah.
think that's why
I
a lot of
agree with
people watched Corn Craze when I first started posting, because I
yeah,
would talk about some real things and no one was telling me what to say. I would just give an honest take or an honest opinion. Kind of like your post game reactions when you'd be in the bathroom. It was like, okay, well, this is refreshing. It's finally someone who's going to tell it like it is and tell me how it really feels to them, because whoever the news reporter isn't going to say anything controversial. They're going to say what their boss wants them to say. So I get that. I still enjoy the college pregame shows. I do a really bad job at it, but I try to wake up at around 8 o'clock, turn on the pregame show, and then watch the Nebraska game right after when it comes on at 9 a.m. But it's tough because for a 9 a.m. game, I get a little amped up. I watch the games that are on tonight. Tonight's UNLV versus Wyoming, so I'm going to have that on till, 10 o'clock my time. Got to wind down after that, try to go to bed, and then get up. It's a whole process. And then when I do live streams, I get a little bit wound up too. I still got to go to the gym tonight. So getting up that early makes it tougher for me. So tomorrow morning, my guess is I'll miss the pregame show. I'll be up by 8:30. I'll go and make myself a smoothie. Then I'll sit down on my bed. I'll scroll through to make sure all my bets are in line, and then I'll turn the Nebraska game on for a 9 a.m. kickoff. And the good news about a 9 a.m. kickoff is I can fully focus on the evening games. So whatever the big game is tomorrow, I think it's Ole Miss, Georgia, I'll be done with the post-game live stream here so I can watch the rest of college football in peace. The other issue, I don't know if you have this problem. Like I said, I get wound up. When Nebraska plays a game at night and then I come on and do a post-game live after, especially if they win, actually doesn't matter, win or lose, I get fired up. So when they have a game where I'm fired up and I'm talking shit for a whole hour on a stream, my heart is beating out of my chest afterwards. I turn off all these lights, everything chills. I go and make my thumbnail and try to cool down. But that's not easy. It's not like it's a simple flow from talk, get all amped up, turn off everything and go back to my regular life. No, I'm still wired. I'm still inside jittery. It's almost like I drank a Monster Energy drink, and it won't stop until, 2-3 hours after I finished. So if I finish a live stream at 9 o'clock my time, there's no way I'm going to bed till 1 a.m.
Right.
So that's the good news about it being a morning game. But
the other thing I do is I go on and I play video games and I yell at how stupid other people are.
You play video games, Sean?
Well, I'll go play Overwatch and swear at other people that I think are stupid, and World of Tanks.
Are they killing games?
Yes, they're always killing, shooting something.
Nice.
Yeah.
All right, well,
not so much Call of Duty, because everybody on that is just too fast, and it's the same freaking game every year, and they expect you to buy the thing and pretend that it's something. Oh, look at the storyline this time. Come on. They're the same maps from Modern Warfare. Well, like 15 years ago.
I hope that you buy the NCAA game when it comes out so that you can at least see the new additions to it, because I think that the stadiums are going to look really good. I've been watching some reports on it. They've got every angle of the stadiums. They've got the insides of the facilities. They're obviously going to have all these new teams' uniforms, so I think that one will be worth playing.
Well, that'll require a PS5 upgrade.
Okay, and it might be time to tell your live stream viewers, hey guys, I really want to play, so we've got a donation goal. Can I get $5 super chats from some of you? Okay, David, thank you for the 5. Thank you for being a member. If Nebraska gets 10 sacks tomorrow, what's the final score?
Oh my God, if we get 10, it's going to be something like 38-10.
I agree. I think Nebraska wins and they score 35 plus with 10 sacks. I don't think it's realistic, but I do think they could get 5. It's a possibility. Okay, I can't read the name. I wish I could. Thank you for the Taiwanese 150. I know Nebraska has no choice but to stick with Harburg this year. Is Harburg a long-term answer, or does Rule need to find another QB in the next years? By the way, I will buy John's book, GBR. I wish I could read your name. I don't speak, I'm assuming this is Taiwanese. I don't speak it.
I think it's Korean.
Korean, I don't know, but that's Taiwanese currency. I know that for a fact.
Oh, it is. Okay.
Yeah. So, John, I'm glad that he's going to buy your book, but he's got a more pressing question right now than about your book. And that's what's going to happen with the quarterback situation next year.
Well, I think Sims and Purdy they're gonna leave. I just don't think that if they're not playing, what's the point of sticking around? Sims will have, if he doesn't play in another game, and I don't expect him to, he's gonna have 2 years of eligibility left. Uh, I mean, if Purdy can't play at this level, you'd probably watch him drop to an FCS level and maybe try to start over. Uh, you got to go get. I don't think Harburg is a long-term answer. I could be wrong about that. I mean, the guy was left on a shelf for so long. We'll see what he develops like in the next 2-3 games. But even then, you've got Danny Kaelin coming in next year, and we don't know how good he's going to be. You got to go find 2 portal quarterbacks, at least. And
two? That sounds a little extreme. I think if you get,
you got to find you got to find 2 because you.
What if you have? Hold on, wait. A question first before you answer this.
Yeah.
Let's say Nebraska returns Heinrich Harburg. You have Daniel Kaelin, and you get a portal quarterback with starting experience. You think, and then let's say Chuba leaves. Okay, you think they need to go and get another developmental portal QB with a starter? Is that what you're alluding to?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think that it depends. What kind of offense are we going to run?
I think they're going to run the offense that this team wants to run, that they weren't able to run yet, which is an offense that can throw the ball more.
Right. But are they going to pick up a statue?
No, I think they're going to pick up a guy who moves it similar, not as mobile as Sims was, but I do think they're going to go after someone who runs it more.
Right. So if you're going to have that kind of quarterback, you'd need 2 if you're going to make it through a season with,
that's fair.
Harburg to fall back on. I don't think you need to go out and get 2 very high profile guys in the transfer.
One high profile, one developmental, similar to what a Chuba Purdy was a couple of years back. That to me would make sense then. What about Lincoln Kienholz at Ohio State? He was a 4-star recruit from South Dakota, a top 15 quarterback in the nation. He's right now, I don't know if he's the 2nd string quarterback with Tristan Gebbia. He might be 2nd or 3rd, whatever. Devin Brown was hurt at Ohio State, so Kyle McCord's their number 1. But next year, let's say Kyle McCord returns as their starter. I don't think that's likely. I think they're going to go and get a guy from a portal who can win right away. But let's say you now have Lincoln Kienholz, who's kind of in that questionable area of 2nd string, 3rd string. He might want to play earlier, and if he was at Nebraska, he could compete for the starting job right away. Right. You think that would be an option to go and pull him? Or do you think they want someone more proven? That's really my question. Is it go after a quarterback who's proven something, or go after a highly rated, highly talented guy who has had coaching at the college level and could come in and compete for the job right away?
I think that's all about how much money they have and what the market is going to look like and how they're going to compete in that.
That's a great point.
You've seen coaches lately. I think Boise State was one of them this week. One of the 2. Washington State's coach has also talked about how they're nil. They have no nil. And what you're seeing is you'll see a player go to a program like Washington State, and let's say he's their best defensive lineman. Well, somebody else is going to buy him next year, right? He gets that free transfer, and he gets the nil. He's proven himself at the Division I level. And now somebody like Nebraska or Georgia or Ohio State is going to go, hey, buddy, what you making?
Yeah,
we're going to give you more than them are.
Dude, did you see MJ Morris at North Carolina State? Do I need to fill you in?
Yes.
Okay, here's what happened at NC State.
So glommed on the Michigan-Ohio State fighting that
I'm here. I pay attention to all of it, and I'm on TikTok, so I get the quick reactions and the quick recaps. Okay. All right. So here's what happened. NC State brings in Brennan Armstrong this year, and they get his old offensive coordinator. Can't remember his name off the top of my head right now. He came from Syracuse. They get back together. The expectation is NC State, who consistently has a really good defense, and they have okay receivers and a decent offensive line. They're going to be able to plug Brennan Armstrong in right away after he started 4 years at Virginia, and they're going to win some games. Unfortunately, some things go wrong. I think he was battling an injury. He does not play. They bring in, I think, true freshman, MJ Morris, 3-star recruit, fast, athletic. He can win games. He ends up winning some. I think he beat Clemson specifically. He had another one against a big team. Don't remember what happened, if they won or kept it close, but he's had some wins now. Guy says, okay, well, coach, I was supposed to redshirt this year and I was supposed to sit behind Brennan Armstrong, but now you've got me starting. I could finish off this season in these next 3 games, potentially get to the ACC championship game. But no, I talked to my agent. My agent says there's more value in me redshirting this year. So I'm going to redshirt and hit the portal and go get real money because NC State doesn't have the real money. So he's a true freshman, gets developed at NC State, shows in 3 games that he can do enough to be a starter at a bigger school, and now he's leaving. That's where we are in college football.
Yeah.
Crazy that situation happened, though. They were never even supposed to play him, and then he comes in kind of in an emergency situation. They had nothing going with Brendan Armstrong. Dude lights it up. I mean, his completion percentage was like 55%. It wasn't anything crazy. But because he showed promise, his NIL value goes through the roof. I don't know. I don't really like that for the sport, if I'm being honest. He could have played this year. He would have played in a total of 7 or 8 games. He would have had a really good true freshman season. He'd be the starter there for the next 2 or 3 years. Sure, he's not going to win a national championship. But hey, he would be competing for meaningful games and competing for ACC championships every year because the ACC is not a dominant conference. But it now feels like you took the group of 5 teams who were getting screwed, which, although it kind of sucks, I didn't hate it. It's like the group of 5 has become a developmental league for the Power 5. But now you're going after Power 5 teams and you're giving them a group of 5 treatment? If you would have done that at Tulane, or if you would have done that at Tulsa, I would have understood. But doing it at NC State, a team who's consistently won 9 games a year with Dave Doran, a team who consistently puts guys in the NFL, that just seems downright disrespectful.
It is. I think you'll probably, well, there are changes coming. I mean, you probably see the part that I probably pay more attention to than most people do is like what's going on with the law. And right now there's a lawsuit called House versus the NCAA that has been certified to be a class action lawsuit. And the basis of it is the NCAA paying basically TV revenue before, I think, 2021. I can't remember all the specifics. Again, I'm not a lawyer. Okay. The NCAA is going to lose this. And it's going to cost them estimated $4.2 billion with a B. So when that lawsuit comes up, and again, nobody I know talks about this or pays attention.
I haven't heard anything about it.
Yeah. Okay. Does the NCAA have $4.2 billion to lay just with, poop around?
I wouldn't think so.
Yeah. So this is why the NCAA is talking so much to Congress about getting an antitrust exemption, because that's what they would get hit for. And then there's the other thing is the, what is it? The NLRB, the National Labor Relations Board, that student athletes might be certified as employees. And then that blows up college athletics completely. So those are 2 things that, that all the other stuff going on in the world of student athletes is taking precedent. But I look at probably more the business side of everything than anybody else does. And those are 2 things that are really existential threats to college sports as we know them. So there you go.
It's interesting because I don't know. Continue.
I thought about trying to interview a lawyer about this, but then you look at it and you kind of go, well, is anybody even going to pay attention to this and care about it? Well, probably not until it happens. So, that's where you put your resources into what do people really want to see and hear about. So,
right. They like the drama. I can tell you that. So if there is enough drama with it and it does get buzz, then maybe they'll listen. But it does pose questions. What will happen with the NCAA? What will happen to college football students? I mean, are they going to transition to college football players first over students first? Because it feels like that's what a lot of them want. A lot of them say, I just want to skip and be a professional athlete, which is cool. I don't have a problem with it, but there are a lot of players who won't be professional athletes, and there are a lot of them who won't make that much money in NIL. It'll be like a side income, and they make a little bit of money in their time in college, but what, you made $100,000 in 4 years or $200,000 in 4 years playing college football? That's not life-changing money, and that's not money that's going to set you up for anything in the future. So I think the education still has to be something to get you on track, to put you in position to be successful long-term. So there's a lot to it, John. It's above my pay grade. I just talk to people on YouTube about Nebraska football. I'm a little guy, Tater, thank you for being a member. Thank you for the $2 super chat. He says, speaking of killing games, no other EVE online players.
EVE Online, I have never played that.
What's that?
EVE Online, isn't that a giant, I want to say, isn't that like a giant Warhammer type game? We're all flying ships in outer space, and we have our own, basically battalions of people that play together. And
I'll be honest
EVE Online, if I'm thinking of the right game, EVE Online is freaking enormous giant game of,
Really?
having literally entire fleets attack other entire fleets for control of spaces, areas in
Well,
space.
John, there have been multiple people in the chat asking for your gamer tag. They want to play games with you, it looks like. They play the
Oh my
same ones
God.
as you, the war game. So I don't know. Maybe you need to tell people on YouTube, go and put in your, you know how you can do the YouTube post? You need to go and put a post up and say, here's my gamer tag. If you want to play battleships or whatever you play, we can all play together. I'll be honest with you. I have a really hard time playing video games. Number one, because I spend so much time with my eyes on the screen already when I go and do my videos and edit. It's a headache to, try and get your eyes to readjust back to normal life. And if I sat here in my room all day and just played video games on top of that, it would be a lot. Second thing is watching
only play
football.
them on a console with a TV way over there.
Oh yeah, I would play it like right here. Like when I did play Madden a little bit, I played Madden when it first came out. I played it right here on this screen. It worked for the first month before I had to really crank up content, but now it's not a thing. So I'll leave you to the video games, John. I'll just keep making videos and you play the video games. I think it's good for your mental health to do it. We got another comment. Thank you for the $75 Taiwanese. Call me Chang. There we go. We know his name now. Chang, thank you for the support. I need to mention this. I really don't want to see John in his bathroom this weekend. Okay, John, can we promise even if they lose, you won't be in your bathroom? I don't think John makes videos in the bathroom unless it's a down bad loss. Am I correct?
Well, kind of.
Because what prompts the bathroom?
Honestly, here's the thing. I don't really. It's just a spur of the moment thing. Last week, we're getting into. It's almost the middle of November. Okay. Last week, I thought, this game really deserves a tree video, but it's like a 1.5 mile walk out to that tree.
It's a 1.5 miles to get out there.
Yeah. I mean, I walk. I have to walk. I have to keep myself in shape, or my
Yeah, no,
body's
it's good. It's just a mission.
But it is kind of a mission, and I thought I really should go out by the tree, but it was like, I don't know, 30 degrees or some damn thing, and I thought, I'm not ready for this. I'm just going to the bathroom. It's kind of funny how these things have evolved into studios with just kind of like, I'm going to sit next to this tree. I'm going to sit in my bathroom and bitch and compare this game to shit. It's just weird how these things worked out for me, or everybody else.
I mean, it kind of became an iconic deal for you. But where do you go if they win the game? Where are you going to make your video?
Well, I typically do it right here.
You're going to make it right here if it's a win?
Well, I mean, if it's, the bedroom studio thing I got going on. I would love to kind of rearrange things and have a little bit nicer area or something. Maybe we'll do that in the future, but for right now, this is what it is.
What do you think of my new setup?
Well, I miss your bed in the background with that red glowy light.
I was frustrated that I had to switch it up. I really wanted to keep the kind of same setup, but I wanted something different because I want to do some different content in the off season, separate from Corn Crazed. And if I want to do separate content, I don't really want the bed in the background. So I had to do something different. I do think this gives me I don't want to say more authority, but when someone sees me for the first time, they look at me different when they see a black background as opposed to a bedroom background, So that's one thing that's a positive. But to all the haters who would always go in my videos, get your bed out of the background, all the complainers, really? I really was like, for them, I want to keep the bed in the back. But I don't know. I feel like this upgrade has been good. I think it's been good for me to get a refresher. I look at something different on the screen whenever I go to record and edit. So I like it. I think it's been positive overall. And I've been able to throw up my football and the helmet and the whole deal. I'm going to try to, I got a plan up there right now. Might throw another one up there. So we're doing something different. But
maybe I'll do something with lights, red lights.
John,
so
when you want, when you're ready to get some Amazon lights and to spruce up your situation, call me. I know all the links. They're all cheap. Okay. We could create a vibe in there. I'm going to release a video probably right after season where I go and give you an apartment tour to show you my apartment. and my studio setup, because I want everyone to see the whole studio and like where I record, because I get a lot of questions and DMs about how I do all this, because there's a lot of people who want to create content for either Nebraska, the college football, or whatever their interests and hobbies are. So I've actually consulted for probably 10 different people who subscribe to the channel, which has been good. It's, a good side income. But yeah, I'm going to make a video where I show my whole setup and how it all works. So when I show you, then you can say, okay, there's some ideas for lighting and here's how we can spruce things up. But all right, John, well, we're 12, 13, we're about 14 or 15 hours away from kickoff. I'm excited.
Bowl eligibility beginning.
I think that's the important thing. We're really, it's like 16 hours away from bowl eligibility. I'm really confident in getting a win. Can I get a final score prediction from you?
Oh my God. I think earlier I've said, I never remember what I said.
Well, after all of the conversations we've had, your mind has probably shifted a little bit anyway.
Oh, well, I feel better than I did earlier. I think earlier I said like 21-17 Nebraska. Maybe I'll make that 27-17 Nebraska.
27-17. So the exact same prediction I had. I like that, John. You and I.
Oh, okay.
Great minds think alike. Well, I'll be back on here with my live stream after the game, probably 10 minutes after. So I know you like to put out your content in congruence with mine. So just letting you know, I'll be live for 1 hour after the game. And then I'm sure they'll head over to watch yours. Guys, if you guys are not subscribed to Core Nation, make sure you head to his YouTube channel. I already exited out my screen or I would pop it up. But you guys know where to find it. He's got almost 8,000 subscribers. John Johnston's been a great guest. Every single time he comes on the show, I love your insight and your input. So thank you for being here with me today.
Well, it was enjoyable. It's been a while. I was worried about you and your move to your new apartment and everything.
Well, the last time we did the stream, it was right before I moved, and I had pulled an all-nighter the night before, so I was completely drained. I had zero energy, and we had to do our thing for an hour. It ended up working out, but I felt a lot better today, so that was positive. But all right, John, well, I'll talk to you in a little bit. I'm going to do my sign-off.
Okay.
All right, I'll see you later.
Take care.
Tomorrow's a big day. It's a bowl eligibility day. It's a day where Nebraska has the chance to do something that I haven't seen since I was 22 years old, something like that. So this is a big moment in my adult life. It's an exciting time for all of us, I would say. It's an exciting time for your kids who haven't seen Nebraska make it to a bowl game. And it's an exciting time for the future because we know that if they do reach this, I don't want to say it's not a significant benchmark. If they reach this, I don't know. If they reach this expectation that I had for them at the beginning of the year, it's going to set up for an amazing 2024, or at least I hope it will. The last time Nebraska made a bowl game, I think 2016 led to, or no, it was 2015. They got to a bowl game, I think, against UCLA, and it led to a positive 2016 when they started off, I think it was like 7-0. So hopefully Nebraska can kind of recreate that magic. Next year sets up for a big 7-0 start to the season, potentially. And maybe we see a little bit of that magic recreated now 8 years later. Don't need to get too far ahead of ourselves. I'm just painting the scenarios so you have a reason to get pumped up for tomorrow and a reason to stay pumped up once they do win that game. So win or lose, I'm going to be back here tomorrow about 10 minutes after the game. I'll give you my full game reaction. And then after that, on Monday, I'll give you whatever my final thoughts are on that game before we move on to Wisconsin the next week. But I'm appreciative of you guys being here today. The support has been amazing all season. We've had almost 300 people on this entire time. If you haven't hit the like button yet, please do it because it really helps our channel. And I know it's really easy for you too. And again, go and support John Johnston. He makes really good content. He deserves all the support that I get because I'm telling you, it takes a lot of work to make it. And he's putting in just as much as I am. With all of that said, I will be watching live from my bedroom tomorrow on Peacock, so make sure you are too, and I'll catch you later. But with all that said, did I miss that already? Thanks for being here, and I'll see you in the next one. Go Big Red.